workout for October 4th. We're gonna do general warm-up first, of course, and then you're gonna do activation, 2 rounds. We're gonna do a standing ITY. So I'm gonna be in my extension. Normally we lay on the floor and we lift up in like Superman extension. You're gonna do the same thing, you're just gonna be in a hinge. Hinging means my hips are behind me and nothing changed in my spine. So from there, I'm gonna do just I and Y for this one. So I'm gonna do 10 I's. So if you notice, I don't really go down that far. I'm not going all the way down here. I'm going 1, 2. I'm leading with my thumb all the way to 10. Once you get to 10, I want you to hold for 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. So 10 lifts and 10-second hold. And then you're gonna do Y. So just like you would do like YMCA. So same thing, I'm hinged over, I'm in extension with my back. My knees are right over my ankles, my hips are back, and again, I'm in a back bend. So 10 Ys, and then hold for 10 seconds or just a 10 count. So that is that. Then we're gonna do 30 heel sweeps. So we do these in my general warm-up too. So you might have already done them, and if you haven't done them, you can do them here, or you can also do them again. They're always good to do. I want to stick my foot out. Again, hinge, tall chest, so I'm not trying to reach the floor necessarily. There might be a little rounding, but I want to keep a relatively tall chest. Standing, it looks like this, but of course you could also do it walking. All right, so from there we're gonna do a parallel hold or a 2-chair hold. So obviously this is a parallel move if you have all of the equipment, but if you don't, 2 chairs, 2 stools, we're gonna hold a tuck position. You could also do this on a stack of books. So if you had 2 stacks of books, relatively the same height, if one's higher than the other, just do a few seconds this way and then flip around so that your arms at least are evened out, okay? So a tuck hold means I'm gonna lift myself up, meaning my shoulders are down and depressed, my knees come up into my chest, and I'm gonna hold for about a 30 count. So 1, 2, 3. You're counting to 30. Obviously, you're gonna count really quickly because you want this to be over with. But you can also do it with your feet down. So if I had even 2 chairs that are lower than this, my feet can stay on the floor. Again, I wanna make sure that my shoulders are depressed and just hold myself up this way. You can do 1 leg at a time, so you still have a leg on the floor, which is nice. If you have a lower chair, your feet are gonna be somewhere up here, and so that works too, but working on lifting the knees up into the chest. So wherever you are for that one, even just planting your feet and pressing your shoulders down, this might be really hard for people, so maybe that's what you're working on, is really getting the shoulders to not be shrugged like this, but getting them depressed, which sounds so sad. There should be another word for that. Okay, heel sweeps, chair hold, and then couch thrust. I'm gonna show you on the balancing beam, but on your couch, I don't think everyone has a beam in their house. That's a joke. You're gonna do it on the couch. So I wanna make sure that just my upper back is on the couch. My low back and hips are obviously hanging off the couch. If it bothers your neck, you can lay your head on the back, like on the seat of the couch, but ideally you do want to crunch, so I'm engaging my core so that I'm not in a back bend. I'm going to go down just a little bit and then lift back up. So it's this top part that really is the whole point of the movement. So if you notice, I hold that for a little bit, and then I only dip about halfway, and again, go right back up and hold. So 30 of those. If you have access to a mini band, I want you to put that, definitely step into it, put it around your quads, and perform those 30 thrusts with the mini band. Okay, so that's your activation. And then the actual workout WOD is 3 rounds of 50 death march, a 2-minute crawl, 1-minute bicycle crunches, and then 1-minute arch hold. So the death march, you can use a backpack or a weight or whatever you have. So if you have 1, that works. I'm gonna show you just with 2. So what I'm gonna do is take a step and then do that same hinge, touch the backpack to the floor, touch the weights to the floor, and then come back up. So just so you can see what that looks like. It's a walking deadlift. As far as my feet go, I only took about a heel to toe step. So that means that as I'm stepping, my foot only went right in front of my big toe. When I say this, everybody always thinks that you have to then walk on a balancing beam, that I'm saying heel toe. I'm not saying that. You're still putting your foot over to the side, but it's not that far in front of me. I'm not taking a huge step. That would be incorrect. So that's a general rule. Obviously, some of you that are more seasoned with this might have a wider step, but for just the general people that are beginning this or haven't done it long, not familiar with it, a very small step is ideal so that I can place more weight on my front leg and my back foot comes up. So it might be here, it might be here, or you might even do this. There's lots of ranges. Whatever you have to do to get to put a little bit more of the weight into the front leg would be ideal, but it's also okay with this one to have the weight in both. It's kind of tricky. So as I take that step, it's almost impossible to have your back heel down, so it is going to be up a little bit, and again, it's up to you how far it is. My chest still stays really tall. I stay in extension. In order to touch the floor, there might be a little bit of rounding, but I really want you to avoid doing that as much as possible. You still want to think like very tall chest as I go down. Both knees are going to bend, okay? So I'm not way out here. And then standing up and trying to squeeze the glutes together. I usually say the two bony points in your hip, sits bones, that you feel like when you ride a bike for the first time or do a spin class, those two pieces, if you think about pulling them together, that's a good way of thinking about activating your glutes, okay? So you have 50 of those, so every step counts as one. So 1, 2, 3. If you don't have a lot of space, you can also do this standing still. So you could just take a step, hinge, and then switch feet, hinge, and then switch feet, hinge. You can also stay on one side for like 10, all the way to 25 reps if you wanted to. So you could stay on one side and do it like this. Switching, like I said, every 5, 10, 15, whatever reps you want to do. So a little bit of wiggle room with that. This is really good if you don't have heavy weights, doing a deadlift, because you are using one leg. So you're putting more weight, even though you don't have a lot of weight, on one leg. So you're going to get more bang for your buck out of that one. So they have 50 death marches, and it's called a death march, not because it's horrible, because it's a resembling of a dead lift, meaning you're picking something up from the floor that's just sitting there. If I'm doing a bicep curl, I am lifting something up, but I'm always in control, I'm always holding it. Once you put something on the floor and then pick it up, you're picking it up from like a dead stop. So that's just where that comes from. And then it's a death march because you're walking. Okay, and then 2-minute low crawl. This is gonna be different. So we're not setting a 2-minute timer and then resting. You are accumulating 2 minutes. So that means if you stop and rest, you need to kind of either have a stopwatch you can stop, or have like a general idea of a running clock. Say you're gonna rest for a prescribed time. Say you're gonna crawl for 30 seconds and then rest for 20 seconds, you have to then look at that clock and know that you've only crawled for 30 seconds. You still have a minute and a half left. So I want you to accumulate 2 minutes as best you can. It might be annoying. Not everybody wears a watch like I do to start and stop. So whatever you can do to make that happen, maybe you have somebody there timing you, but accumulate 2 minutes of crawling. So it's gonna be a low crawl, meaning I'm gonna start in sort of like a tabletop position. So this quadruped position, my knees are off the floor, okay? And I'm gonna crawl as fast or as slow as I want. It doesn't matter because you're accumulating 2 minutes. So you can crawl backwards. Usually I just kind of crawl into my kitchen and make a circle and then come back. So I'm continually crawling. Again, go nice and slow. You don't have to go fast. You do want to try to move the right hand and then the left foot. So when you start, make sure you're doing opposite. Right hand, left foot. And then you might start to pick up the pace a little bit, but you want to remove yourself from doing sort of like a downward facing dog. Try to keep your knees as low as possible. If it bothers your quads, if it pulls on your knees, if your knees are kind of like bothering you, like tight, pulling, it's probably because your quads are tight. So definitely stretching before or after this if you know that they're tight, and know that you're not going to hurt yourself, that's why they're bothering you. Okay, then a straight leg bicycle crunch. This is way harder than you would think. Okay, so I'm going to do traditional bicycle crunch. Look like this. We're going to do straight leg. So my opposite knee and my opposite elbow are coming close to each other, but I'm not necessarily trying to touch. If you can touch, awesome. But if it's just not hitting it for some reason, at least you're going in that general direction versus like pulling on your head. I'm just putting my hands here as like a guide. I'm not pulling my head whatsoever. So we're gonna do 1 minute of that. Again, accumulating. So that means if you rest, you have to take out that rest time. So if you work for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds, you have to do another 30 seconds to complete that minute of that. And then you have a minute of an arch hold. So I'm gonna basically do like Superman, I'm laying on my belly, arms are gonna be out in front, and I'm gonna lift up my feet and hands, try to keep your legs straight, thumbs to the ceiling, 1 minute. You don't have to be super high off the floor for that one to make it beneficial. What you do want to do is have your arms and legs straight. So instead of trying to go high, 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 just think about straightening your arms, lifting your thumbs to the ceiling, and straightening your legs instead of bending at the knee, which usually happens. So you're going to do 3 rounds of that. Good luck.